Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Jim and Sam Town Square. I'm Scott King. Jim and Sam fans know me from the Forbes articles, and I'm joined, as always, by multi-Emmy award-winning TV producer Chris Cangilla. This episode, we're recapping week 1 of August 2023. Chris, it was a good week, anyways. We got some great guests in, amazing talk in the studio. Troy on fire again, but we have to start with this. A little pat on the back for us. These guys, our little podcast got a big rub from the Big League show. What was your experience beholding this unfold?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm there listening, driving home from work. It's a Craig Shoemaker interview, and they go to the phones, and I recognize the voice of the caller. Who was that caller?
It might have been me.
It was you. Great job, man. Tell us about it.
Thank you. Sorry about that alarm bouncing all over the place, but I was listening. So I got the opportunity because I was driving downtown to go to work, and I usually work remote. So I'm in the car, given the opportunity to listen live, which I usually kind of listen on a replay, and I'm hearing the Craig Shoemaker interview. And I remember like a year or two ago, he was on. And I remember vividly that it was a good interview. And at the very end, he goes to Jimmy. Like right when they're about to cut away from him and be done with the interview, he's like, "Oh yeah, me and you had a thing. We can talk about it next time." And I'm like, "Huh?" And then so right after that, I start, kind of searching on YouTube, and I found Opie and Anthony. So this is like a year or two ago that I listened to this, just trashing him for his character, the Love Master, which that is what that show did. But so I'm listening to the interview, about to drive downtown. I'm stopped at a Starbucks by my house, and I'm like, he's kind of just talking about like stand up. It's not really the guys are letting him talk. It wasn't really going. I don't think it was going there, and it wasn't. It's not on the guys. And I think Craig's very funny and got very interesting, but it wasn't that interesting of an interview yet. So again, a little bit of pat on the back for us. I called in, Troy answered. And I go,
what did he say when he answered? Because we never get the background of the other part of the call. So when Troy answered the call, did he recognize your voice immediately? Did he recognize who you were when you told?
It's just like what you can kind of hear in the background of the show. Sometimes it's like, "Jim and Sam, what's your name? Where are you calling from?" I think. And I go, this is Scott of the Jim and Sam Town Square podcast. And he starts laughing. He goes, "What's up, man?"
Nice.
And I go, "Look, I don't know if you guys want to get to this or not, but there's this thing with Craig." And I just actually started listening. I don't know if you guys already talked about it. So he goes, "Hang on." So about 10, 15 minutes, just listening, enjoying the show. He got me on, and I said, "Look, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable," but Craig said he was going to talk about this on the show. And credit to Craig and Jimmy. Jimmy goes, "Yeah." Like Jimmy, I think each of them didn't want to make the other look bad or go there.
Right. Go there. Since you brought it up, it gave them permission to talk about it from each side of it and really get it out there. And it was great. And it was cool. We got the big rub from the Jim and Sam show, as you mentioned. Sam, said, "Yeah, these guys, the Town Square guys, they really take their job seriously and doing this podcast, and they catch everything, and they were great." And then Jim goes, "I haven't listened yet." I'm like, "Oh, come on, Jim.
You got to do it.
Come on, buddy. You got to give us a listen." Maybe we'll get him this week. But yeah, it was great to get that acknowledgement from Sam that that they appreciate what we're doing. Maybe we do it a little too much, and then we got to watch what we say. These guys are going to dissect every word. But no, it was great, and you had a great point, and it made for a really good part of the interview. So you produced the Jim and Sam show. Travis, watch out. Got King's coming.
I think let me give myself maybe too much credit. But I think it opened things up because after that, he started talking about being abducted as a child and a little bit of self-service, which you don't have to get too much into. But it opened the doors for everything, I felt like.
Yeah, it was good. And you did a great job there,
Thanks,
my friend.
Man. And thank you. And it was for the show, as
always
to say. All right. Well, enough about our rub, which was a spectacular. Definitely listen back if you haven't yet. Let's get into the show and what was covered this week. Jim. We hear him talk about cruises. There's a really good rap, I think, the previous week on a cruise. He's not going on a cruise yet, but he is investing in perhaps his latest compulsive purchases that might take the place of the Kiss posters. Chris, what is his latest purchase?
Yeah, he is getting Kiss belt buckles, and I think he's purchased 2, and they're not too expensive, but the guy's made a good point. What are you going to wear the belt buckles with? You can't wear them with sweatpants, and you really can't wear them with your cords. He likes those, cords. Relaxed man cords. You need to get some jeans. Troy's like, get some jeans. And Jim would look great in the jeans. You got to do, as Sam was saying, tuck in the front part. I think that's called the French tuck, where you tuck in the front. I've never been skinny enough to really take care of that. You tuck in the front and let the other stuff kind of hang out there so you can show off that belt buckle. But yeah, he's whatever Kiss comes about, he'll be getting that. That. And so, yeah, he's diverting other poor activities into this new activity, and that's fine with me.
I think he might, if he finds more of these Kiss belt buckles, I think he's going to buy them. It sounds like he wants to be done with the posters, but he needs something, as we have come to learn about Jim. We've heard them joke about 90s shock culture, because Montone likes to bring it up, which is always hilarious. But Sam and Travis, because they're around my age, always like to bring up Tom Green and sometimes, Jackass and those guys, Jackass coming from CKY. And they watched a lot of those videos, which, we can get to the funnier ones in a minute here. But do you like when you're listening and you're kind of hearing their reaction to these videos?
Only if I've seen them before.
Yeah.
Right. If I know what they're talking about, then I'm in on it and I can just appreciate what they're talking about. But if I haven't seen something, like I'm not too familiar in the CKY stuff, then I'm like, I don't know. It was fine. I enjoyed it. They kind of got onto this subject because, Troy and Jim and Cooper were telling their stories on how they have defiled things or places with some duty in the past when they were younger people. And this came about because I guess a bar here in Wrigleyville in Chicago, here where we are, a woman's restroom was kind of defiled with duty. So got the boys talking about that in the past, and it kind of got to this whole shock culture thing. But yeah, I like that stuff. I like Knoxville. I like the Tom Green thing. Yeah. Oh my goodness. With his dad in the car. What was it called?
The Slutmobile.
The Slutmobile. Dad, do you know that you're driving the Slutmobile? I'll pick you up in the Slutmobile. It was great.
Stop. Yeah, the CKY videos, I saw some of those in college, but I don't remember all of them. But like when we're listening to Johnny Knoxville hit golf balls into people he had the air horn.
Air horn, right.
And I did see that one, and oh my God, is that funny?
Yeah, and I think others have taken that on Instagram and Reels, doing that when people are doing that, and those golfers get so upset. And I play a little golf. I can understand that.
Yeah.
How that would throw you off, but I also see the humor in it.
Absolutely. There was certainly humor in Jim's eating habits in the studio. He really wanted to get pickles, and he spilled some pickle juice on himself, and he ate a salad in studio this week that did not agree with him, upset his stomach. So I feel like if he's not like knocking over a coffee cup, he's having some kind of mishap with food, and it even kind of continued into his apartment because his girlfriend is getting food that I cannot believe how disciplined he's being, where you won't even have like a smidge. So what did she get this week? Yeah,
she got some pizza, and I can't remember the place, but all the guys just gushed over this place, and he was going to bring in some extras, but he appreciated that it was her that ordered the pizza, not him. So it wasn't his to really bring in. But they had some pizza. She had some pizza and some ice cream that Jim didn't partake in. But you know where he got the pickles and the salad from that he was eating in studio?
Where did he get it from?
He got it from the Vibe.
The Vibe?
Are you really going to go get pickles and salad from the, break room? Come on, Jim, make better choices, man.
What?
I don't know if it's his diet. He eats some weird things. I just think it's his food choices, man. Just pick better things, and I don't think you'll gain weight. Just that stuff is just,
it is. I think there's also some compulsive behavior with a new trick he learned in learning how to use Apple Pay. Travis said he's living in the future now.
He's getting on it. He's getting on it for sure.
Real quick, we're not going to dissect this one, but absolutely hilarious when they did a New York Drake video about fans excited about Drake, and Sandy Kane was surprised everybody and was saying all these horrible things. My God, was that hilarious?
Yeah.
And we had, a very sad, certainly for my generation growing up watching Pee-wee's Playhouse and Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the movie, over and over again. With Paul Rubin's very sad celebrity death, and I don't know if anyone had a more profound social media post than a former Opie Anthony, producer in Erock.
Yeah, he really touched a lot of hearts by, claiming to everybody that Paul Rubens was a true rebel, Dottie. Come on, man. Everybody in the world is going to use that line from the movie. It's just bad. I wish he would call in. I guess I'm not sure about how his departure from Sirius went. If he could be on the show, probably not, but maybe he could call in. I'd love for them to talk to the old Erock. I mean, they bring him up a lot and they don't bring him up. Hey, so there's a lot of opportunity that we would like to share with Erock and hearing from him again.
Elsewhere on YouTube, it's kind of like Jimmy introduced this. These social, I don't know if it's social justice. I guess it is kind of social justice in a way.
Social justice or just justice in general. Yeah, justice
and street justice, perhaps. Enforcers like the pickpocket lady who catches them in Italy. You have Jimmy Justice in New York. Carton Narcs. The guy said he's all over the country. That might have been my favorite. And busting the phone scammers. If you haven't seen those videos on YouTube, those are hilarious. But I kind of, this is one of those things where I get why Jimmy likes it. It's nice to see justice get served.
Absolutely. And he loved saying what the woman was saying in Italy. Attention! Something like that. Yeah. When she would find somebody doing a pickpocket. The cart narcs. Is that what the guy was? Cart narcs? Yeah. That guy was, he approaches people that, and I think there's one of them where somebody had a gun. I wouldn't want to be around any of that.
No.
You got to choose your source. I do like when they, someone will park weird and they'll encirculate that car with carts and then zip tying them together. So it's like a corral of carts around a car that parked illegally. So
right.
Those are fun to watch for sure.
Gotta be careful who you mess with though. You never know. Never know. Pull down you. Learned a little more about Troy as we've kind of been getting the last few weeks. And as happy as he is with his fiance, he did reveal that he would throw it all away. Not just for Taylor Swift, as most men would, but also for Megyn Kelly. I don't know if you wanted us to reveal this now, Chris, but it prompted Sam to have a pretty good line.
Yeah, I don't know about the specifically on the line, but I did like how he talked about how Sam said to him, okay, if that's okay and you make this agreement with your fiance that you can do that, then that means that she can be with Neil Cavuto.
Yeah.
Troy's like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Neil, really? Well, yeah.
that's all I was talking about. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a very good bit. And it was back and forth and talking about all these other things about there. But yeah, like you said before, I mean, Taylor Swift, my goodness, did Troy just go ape nuts over her acoustic sets? He had these clips of he fell in love with her all over again. He's just obsessed. And, I understand it. I mean, she is one of the coolest persons out there. I mean, she did some really cool things this past week, too.
Yes, absolutely. And that was as a publicist, I can tell you, there was no coincidence, as the guys were suggesting, there was no coincidence to the news that she paid her crew $50 million on this tour right after the Lizzo allegations that she did some very inappropriate things with her staff and her backup dancers. So that was all. I think that was
premeditated for sure. And she's, I mean, she's raking it in as the guys figured out how much money she's making in there. And she paid, I think, each one of her drivers like $100,000. That added up to like $5 million for each one of those truck drivers. And then there's a lot of other bonus for other people in there. But that's how you should do it. I mean, if you're clearing that kind of dough, you can't do it by yourself. And these guys, all these guys and girls are getting paid anyway. Yes, we know that. And they have a prestigious gig and working on Taylor's concert tour, but my goodness, that's the way it should be done. Let's everybody share in the wealth, right? So when you make that $1 billion, on the next sell of your, comic book or any kind of action figure or something you have, just remember us little guys that are there supporting you in that quest.
Something your way. Yeah, at least a free
something for the boys, right?
Something for the guys. A bag of money at Chris's
bag of money.
We'll get to that soon.
Yes, we will.
But, real quick, you probably can play a little bit of Taylor Swift music, right? On your guitar.
Yeah.
I think your daughter could sing beautifully as well.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we that's our thing. When she comes home from school, we knock out a couple songs. So we did one for Mean, I think it was.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, and I'd throw it up there, but I think Taylor would probably get it taken down. So I'll put up the visual, and maybe not. We won't hear it, but yeah, it's a good time when my daughter Sydney and I are together and got a chance, because I can't sing a lick, but I can play the guitar a little bit.
I want to hear those pipes. Speaking of your family, I want to remind everyone to check out Our World War II Dad, the podcast you did with your brother Ken. Phenomenal podcast, and the 5-part series concluded now, but everyone can go check out the whole thing.
Yeah, everything's right there on YouTube if you search out Our World War II Dad, as well as on Apple and Spotify podcasts. So excellent. Thanks. Yeah, it's great.
Gotcha. It's wonderful. Everyone should check it out. Now there was the back to the show. There was the instance where Troy, I think a flight got canceled. So he's in Florida. We know Florida Troy is a more relaxed Troy. And Sam, a couple times this week, has referenced him grilling, as Jim would call them, shrimpers. So do you think the fact that Troy, his flight got canceled, didn't make it to New York, and he was just chilling, grilling shrimp, did that bother Sam, do you think?
It bothered him, but I'm not sure if it bothered him for the reasons that everybody's thinking about. I think Sam is jealous.
Yeah.
Sam is going, I would love to be in my airport hotel in Orlando for an extra day. And here, Troy got to stay there an extra day. Now, I'm not sure how hard Troy tries to get back. He says he does, and I believe him, but if you book a flight at, 7:00 at night on the Sunday before you have to come back for Monday, chances are that flight may not happen a lot more than if you booked it at 7 a.m. So, maybe he's just kind of taking it a little bit easy and getting back from Florida to New York. I mean, there's a big part of, that Troy is, miserable New York Troy. And then there's, happy Florida Troy. So, I like happy Florida Troy, but we don't get to see him as much. So I'd rather have him in New York.
I'll take any Troy I can get. And real quick, Sam had another interesting point that he accused Troy of acting more miserable while in New York so he could just enjoy Florida even more. A real kind of deep dive into Troy's psychology I thought was pretty interesting from Sam. Don't know if it's true, but very interesting. Yeah. Speaking of interesting, and another pat on the back for us on the pod here, and this is why Jim and Sam fans should listen. We've been following Cooper, the new intern, every step of the way since he first got on the air. And man, is he evolving into one of the all-time great Jim and Sam interns. We have this week we found out that he's kind of a dark sense of humor. If you want to break down how he learned that, Chris.
Yeah, he has risen, as we kind of pointed out, that these guys go to him a lot during the show. What do you think, Coop? Right. So they trust him. They think they like his young takes. So his star has risen a great deal. Yeah, he has a little bit of a dark sense of humor. He goes dark first, and it happened a lot during the Craig Shoemaker interview where Craig was talking about his abuse maybe when he was younger, and Cooper was laughing a little bit at inappropriate times. At the weirdest parts. But he explained why, and I thought that was pretty valid. But yeah, he's chiming in a lot more. And he laughs at some stuff. And we got a little treat. We got to see a little bit of, we didn't. The guys did. We saw it on Instagram. But yeah, a little bit of Cooper's stand-up. And I'll tell you, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, he had good delivery, good poise, and his joke was pretty funny. One or two of them that we got to hear.
Yeah, and that's on Jim and Sam's Twitter. I think Jim and Sam's show. If anyone wants to go check out Coop's material, they threw it up there to give him a rub, which he appreciated. But yeah, I mean, I did it for a while. And no one is good right away. So the fact that you can see that he has a foundation for writing a good joke already, that's good. That's great for him. I mean,
that's a big part. I mean, that's what, Jim referred to when we had a lot of comedians in this week, and Jim was talking with them, and, and I think it was Craig that asked Jim, how did you kind of really know that you could do this stuff? And Jim said, I was writing a lot and I wrote a story. Absolutely. And I read that story in class and people laughed at it. So it's a writing. It's always been with everything that I've seen too, for like television or movies, the writing of it, the story is what makes it. Anybody can do the special effects and that kind of stuff, but let's get the writing right. You're a writer. You understand that.
Yeah. It's got to come from somewhere. You got to get on the page.
Got to get on the page.
Speaking of on the page, some of the guys in the studio were on the page of you do small talk with somebody like the money for the bag security guard. And Jimmy and Troy did not want to do that. We've heard that it makes them uncomfortable over the last couple of years here. So basically, the guy would make small talk and always ask Jimmy what he said. What did he say? Bag of money when Jimmy would walk in with a bag. And Jim's like, yeah, money for the guys. I used it for a Forbes headline. But where do you fall in terms of the guy took a week vacation, came back and started talking about him, and now he's done. I think SiriusXM.
Yeah, he's retired.
But where do you fall with small talk in those situations?
it's kind of weird. First of all, like, Troy was also saying that, Troy would be walking in and the guy would be engaged in a conversation with somebody else and interrupt that conversation to say hi to Troy or ask him what's going on or whatever. So yeah, it is kind of annoying. So I've worked in a couple different places here in Chicago, and one of them had a guy like that, but he was wonderful. I loved engaging with him. It was nice to have him know you when you came in. Now he was a security, front desk kind of person at the place I was working, but he also took care of a lot of the building too. So it was like one of those kind of multi-use buildings. So, he had to be like that. And then I've also worked at places where I had somebody that was working reception always ask me when I was leaving, "Where are you going?" Now, I don't know if it was being nice or just curious, but sometimes it's like, none of your business.
I know business is where I'm going.
I'm going to a meeting, or what do you got there? It's just little questions that got in there, a little too much rather than just the small talk of, "See you later, have a good night. Oh, thank you. You do as well." Those kind of things, fine. But when it gets a little bit more in depth, it gets a little weird.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to the way you're wired, right? The way in your brain. I think people like that.
And the time of day and what you're going through. Yeah.
Trying to go somewhere, trying to go home. Yeah, absolutely. Right. But I think people like that they're nice people. They're trying to make your day a little better. They're being friendly. Troy might have.
But they did think about maybe it's right. You said maybe they're getting ready for a little bit of Christmas bonus and kind of greasing that wheel. I don't know.
Absolutely. And I honestly, the way you're wired, I might be more like Jimmy and Troy. I get a little anxiety when I know like this guy is going to stop you. Like I'm trying to get from A to B. I don't know what I'm going to say about the weather. Like right. That gets in my head too. So I'm kind of with those guys.
And speaking of being wired. Somebody was super wired during Tuesday or Wednesday's show. Travis got overserved as far as cold brew, I think. He was way over caffeinated. And you know what? I loved it. He was so much fun. He was fast. And let's go. And how you going? You can tell. You can just tell this guy was just flying off the moon in caffeine.
Cold brew theft was something to behold. How did they even get all that free? Was it just free in the break room?
I think so, yeah, because they mentioned that it's probably from the Vibe, but they'll be charged for it soon. They're going to kind of, it's like, you don't know, but you've heard how these drug dealers work, right? The first hit is free and then get you a little taste and get you hooked and then charge you for the rest. So maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah. They, I think it was Jim was kind of warning, or maybe Sam perhaps was warning Mark Norman. It was great to have him back this week about how if you do have kids, you're going to start having to talk to and hang out with the other kids' parents. And I'm like right in the
you are
now. And some of them are great and they're like our friends now. So I don't, it's kind of like the bag of money guy. Like if it's a forced weather BS conversation, I might not be into it, but they're cool people. We have similar interests. Their kids are nice. Get along with my kids. It's all good. And real quick, I'll add, there's a very funny comedian out of Chicago we both know named Pat McGann.
Oh, I love Pat.
He has this great joke. And when I went to LA, the comedians there were talking about it. That when you get older and you go, it's kind of like this, when you go out, if you go out to a bar or a club, it's not like your friends from college, right? It's just a weird mix of what your life is now. He's like, yeah, hey, this is my brother-in-law and a guy from my gym.
That's pretty much how it works.
That's totally it.
When my kids were little, I mean, we kind of needed those friends. We were moved to this area that I live in now, and we didn't know many people. So you kind of depended on those people. But now, my wife and I, we're in our empty nester kind of phase, and it's hard to make friends that are in the same thing. So we're like, we need an app that is like a dating app, but for couples.
Don't download the wrong one by accident.
I know it kind of sounds weird, and I don't mean this weird. Just for us to find people that want to hang out and do the same things and play tennis or whatever. Just there got to be some matchmaking app for adults, but nothing sexual. I assure you.
Just follow Chris on Twitter, guys, and let me know if you want to hang out.
Yeah, please. I need a friend. I need a buddy, but I need a couple buddy for my wife and I, of course.
You're a part of a couple.
There you go.
So Jimmy got to, in the middle of the week, he got to a tough crowd story that I don't think we've heard before. And that's me in high school watching my favorite comics ever, just bash each other. So when Jimmy starts telling a tough crowd story, and I haven't heard, it's gold. I just picture him digging for gold, and I am in. So it's basically that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but the money. Colin Quinn promised him like $1,000 an episode. Then Comedy Central got in the mix and like, oh no, it'll be like 200. And I think Jimmy's accountant told him not to take it from that decrease.
Walk, yeah.
In the money. They had to walk, and Jimmy's like, no, I should do it. It's my
Colin's my friend. Yeah,
look where he is now. So.
Yeah, they got onto this subject because they were talking about the Hollywood mistakes and the actors that have been on a hit show and left. It was Henry Blake, that was McLean Stevenson in MASH, and then like Suzanne Summers on Three's Company. All these character actors that I remember from my youth.
Yeah. That was a great break. Yeah,
yeah, they got the whole thing. So they're talking about this stuff, and then Jim said, this almost happened to me, and can you imagine what his life would have been if he would have walked from Tough Crowd? Tough Crowd is that thing that I loved. It's a Comedy Cellar table. Yeah, these guys bashing each other. So yeah, I'm so glad that he made the decision he did make.
Absolutely. I wish he would have made another decision to have the Duck and Goose Soiree by now. It's August, Jim. It's the first week of August. So is it done? Have we missed the soiree? Was it just a summer thing?
I don't know. It's hard to read this guy. I would have thought it would have happened over, I thought it was going to happen in May. And then I thought, okay, June. And then, July 4th, he'll do it for real. And he just had, a few people over on that one, which was a impromptu kind of thing.
Soirée
and her mother
with his girlfriend and Soiree's mom. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little odd, but yeah, I don't know. He's got a really busy touring schedule, so, and then Sam's busy too, and the guys are busy. So coordinating all that stuff. And then he's very, as you well know, anxious about things. So, if somebody can't come or the food's not going to be there, it's a lot of nonsense, but he wants to entertain. I don't think he's just equipped to do so.
And speaking of entertaining, the thing I'm most excited about for next week, and I hope it doesn't disappoint, it comes down to one person, if he's going to be ridiculous or boring, and that's Hotdog, because Sam is driving to Detroit for a live podcast, I believe, and he's bringing his dad and Hotdog obviously to do probably some video recording or some photographs for him. What do you think that car ride will be like? That's at least a few hours. It's like,
yeah, well, I think they're looking at it. It's about 12, maybe 13 hours to Detroit from New York.
Hotdog and your dad.
Yeah, hot dog and the dad. But that sounds like a 70s,
Hot Dog and the Dad.
Yeah, it's like BJ and the Bear. Anyway, it looks like it could be a real interesting trip. I really want to know the backstory of why his dad's going with. I think it's great. I think he's doing even more than the podcast. I think he's doing a lot of WWE stuff.
Yeah, there might be an event out there.
Super Slam or something's there, and it's just right at the Ford, whatever it's called. It's at Ford Field, which is right near where Sam's doing this. So it's a big event. And Dad's coming out there and Hotdog. So I really hope it. But here's my kicker. I can't wait to hear what they talk about in the car, but they got to stop by smoking. Is that right? Shamokin?
Sam said he might stop there on the way back because it is right on the way, supposedly. Yeah. Maybe a tiny bit of a detour.
He said maybe he'd wear his shirt. I was going to wear my shirt today to try to, get the good vibes going, but that'd be great.
You need to wear them again soon. They're fantastic shirts. They're printing, fantastic. This was one of the most memorable bits of the week, and it was pretty close to the end of the week. But I could not believe the Rudy Giuliani transcripts that leaked with him talking to his assistant. Yes, maybe you can surmise that they must have been dating or something. It's just a guess. We don't know. But they had, I believe it was the Sexiest Boy contest?
Yeah, they had all the guys. Jim and Sam decided that they should have all the other guys on the show take a turn at reading the transcripts in their best sexy voice, and it turned into the boys auditioning for the Jim and Sam Sexiest Boy of the Year contest, where each one of them had to read a quote of the transcripts there, and they're pretty vivid. And as they're wrapping up, Hotdog arrived because it was Thursday and they were heading out to Detroit, and they made him read one as well. You want to share who won the Sexiest Boy of the Year contest?
Absolutely. And he beat the doors off of everybody. He had so much.
As he should.
Troy was amazing. Troy won it. Well deserved. He was so fantastic. If you haven't heard that break, you got to go back and listen. Troy is absolutely hilarious.
But they talked about it. He should. Troy's an expert at that dirty talk. Right. Why is he even in this contest? Right. It doesn't make any sense at all. But it was fun and a great way to end the week for sure.
And speaking of ending, we got a few more minutes here as we're getting down our list, but this is something that was touched on. I hope it seems like it might be a one-off. I hope they dive in deeper next week. But DBags' wedding, we didn't hear. It must have happened recently. But I thought a few weeks ago they were talking about how who didn't get him a gift.
Was it Hotdog or
yes? I think it was Hotdog.
I mean, and DBag had some really weird requirements for his bachelor party. So this has been the summer of DBag's wedding. I don't know when it happened specifically. Yep. Yeah. So that wedding was it a lot of romance going on at the wedding?
Something like that. And Sam and Hotdog said it was a very horned up wedding, I believe. Yeah. Their terminology and them and maybe Troy have said on social, it certainly looked that way. So I would like a little more of a deep dive. Why was it so horned up? What happened? What's going on with DBag these days? I need answers. I need answers.
I would like to get some of those too.
It would be fantastic. So let's talk about our guests this week on Jim and Sam. A great mix, absolutely great mix. You get Mark Norman back, and Mark, who can just text any of the guys on the show and probably any of the staff. His publicist sets up his appearance. Zach Amico is always great. I remember one of his first appearances, he talked about his mom like listening to him, like to make sure he's asleep when he was like a teenager. He has amazing stories about his mom, and we talked about Craig Shoemaker and what happened with Jimmy. So who do you have for your guest of the week out of the three, Chris?
Well, I do want to share a little bit about each one of them that I thought was interesting. Of course, with Zach, they were talking about unsanctioned parking lot death matches. Okay. It's like the WWE events that aren't really WWE events, wrestling events going on there. What the heck is that? So that was kind of cool. And then, of course, you mentioned it with Mark. He's talking about his agent booking him there, where he could have just picked up the phone and said, hey, guys, can I stop by? I mean, he used to get cars to take him to the airport afterwards. I think that, agent thing doesn't really need to happen when it's Jim and Sam.
Right.
And then, we talked about Mark being a guest that hasn't been booked lately, and we were hoping that happened. So I'm glad to see him back.
Yeah, we did say that. Yeah.
Talked a funny story about doing Rogan's podcast, and a lot of guys were partaking of many things during that podcast, and pretty many of them were just inebriated, which just killed after that. And Rogan's like, okay, let's go over to the Comedy Mothership and do some sets. And Mark's like, huh? So he talked about that. He talked about his wife now, which I forgot he got married, having a big blow-up fight with her, and then all these issues with his home. He's got a couple of apartments and homes. And he is becoming almost as bad as Jimmy with domesticated things. He doesn't make good decisions. So I'm going to call him Domesticated Marky. Yeah, Domesticated Marky is my new name for him when he talks about that stuff.
I like it.
And then lastly, we had Craig, Shoemaker. And, I know he's very successful, and has done great things, but this is my take only. I felt that he, had to keep on reminding the guys of that. And I hate people that have to keep on reminding people how good they are. And not sure if I really like him. His responses kind of seemed rehearsed and like he had a story teed up to talk about something, or he'd segue into something else. It's like he had it all laid out. And it was weird. And I'll tell you, what happened during his interview, and then it turned around, was your call. Like you said, it made it a different thing. I liked him a lot more after that, after knowing his and Jimmy's background, and Jim being a stand-up guy and saying, I was wrong, I apologize, and him accepting that apology, which is something I really want somebody to do if they apologize, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'm not a big fan of Craig, even though I love what happened with him. I'm going to go with Mark. It was great to hear him again.
Absolutely a great pick. Mark was amazing. I hope he gets on sooner next time.
Yes.
I have to go, and it might be patting myself on the back, or I'm so close to it. I think I got him to unguard a little bit. I think Jim and Sam probably could have done that anyways. I'm sure they were going to ask about the abduction that he mentioned, I think, on another show. Only like one other time he said he talked about it. So I think they probably would have got him to relax and open up about that. But I think my call moved things along with him, and
it really did.
The realness with him and Jimmy is like it wasn't a great situation with them, but it sounds like it became a good situation. But it's such a treat to listen to because it's just real. Like so many things are not real and honest, and they hashed it out, and then we got more real personal stuff out of Craig. So
I really noticed that too, that they're just two warriors that have been through it all, and they had that shared experience, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
I did learn something I have never heard about Jimmy during this interview, so I'll give Craig credit for that, because he asked a question to Jim. It's like, were you one of those? What about those guys that were like the car comedians? Like, what are car comedians? Well, the car or driver comedians were the guys that would drive around the more intoxicated or, other comedians. Right. So Jimmy, because he was sober, he drove Levy and Otto to gigs. And in doing that, he got to get a lot more sets. And I think that really helped him in his quest to build himself up as a comic. And Absolutely. So, being sober does kind of pay off once in a while, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it might have fast-tracked his career a little bit, getting started with those guys because he's driving them. We got a few more minutes here. Let's get to line of the week. I'm going to let you go first.
All right. So this was during the 90s shock culture discussion. They're talking about injuries and possibly dying from one of those injuries. And Sam said, do you think that I want on my tombstone it to say he had amazing action figure collection? And Jim said, whatever it says, I just hope it has a -23 at the end of it.
I remember that.
Which was spot on quick. So I liked that one. That was good. What do you got?
That got a good in-studio laugh. The line of the week for me came from Craig Shoemaker's storytelling about his abduction. And towards the beginning of the story, when he's describing a guy, he goes, he's got a handlebar mustache. And they kind of start giggling in the studio. And Sam's like, oh, yeah, my dad has one. And Jim goes, yeah, and he also does that. Like abducts children.
It's abducts children. He's the guy.
Man, I had a good cackle.
I kind of noticed for me specifically, our lines of the week, mine are always the ones that dig at the other guy. Jim says something that digs at Sam, or Sam says something that digs at Boss or Jim. Right. So I guess my humor is kind of getting to be like Cooper, where I like things a little darker, a little leaner.
I do as well, and I think I have for a while. That's one of the reasons I love this show and the O&A before. But another great week. Got to insert ourselves into it a little bit. Chris, thanks for joining me as always, man.
No, it's a pleasure. It really is to have everybody kind of be part of this whole thing. And then when you get a rub from the guys, we must be doing something right here in the town square.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Jim and Sam Town Square. Please remember to like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, not Doug Bell, so you don't miss an episode.
And if you're just listening to the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it.